for joining this section. So my name is Benita. I'm the founder of Encompass. We are a social enterprise that promotes the sustainable development goal. So one of the sustainable development goal is SDG 15, life on land. So today we are very happy to have Marco to be with us to talk about spider. So Marco, I have known Marco since last year, and he has given us a talk on Hong Kong insects. It was very popular, very well received. Marco is a very good speaker, and since then I've been working with Marco on a project basis. He has helped me to lead some tours, especially in Taipo Cow, to look at biodiversity. So Marco is a very bright young man and know a lot about insects. I know a lot about marine, but I'm very ignorant about spider. So I think you guys will all learn a lot from Marco and his talk. And yes, please. And I know we have some young audience here. And yes, let's get started. So over to you, Marco.
Okay, thank you, Benita. First of all, good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to today's talk. And like the title suggests, and as Benita introduced, okay, I will be talking about spiders in general. Last time, I talked about insects and spiders in Hong Kong, but today we're narrowing the scope and just talking about spiders. Okay, so before we start this presentation, there's something I've got to address. Since it is Chinese New Year, I would like to wish you all a very happy Chinese Lunar Year, and wish you all peace and prosperity, and most important of all, safe and healthy. So happy New Year, everyone. So a little introduction about myself. My name is Marco. I am a Year 1 student at HKU, and I am an aspiring ecology student. During my free time, now I don't get to study the major yet, but during my free time, I like to go to nature reserves and country parks in Hong Kong and look for insects, spiders, reptiles, and amphibians, and take photos of them. If you're interested to see my findings and my encounters, you could follow me on my social media here. This is my Instagram, Facebook, and this is my iNaturalist account. Whoops, not really working. Okay, so before we jump into local spiders, we have to talk about Hong Kong's biodiversity in general. Now, Hong Kong, many people call it the urban jungle, the concrete jungle. So the common depiction is tall skyscrapers, shopping malls, public housings, and all of that. But actually, Hong Kong's majority of land are still mountains and countryscapes. So within this natural landscape, it houses a very rich diversity of species. Now, Hong Kong exists on in a subtropical area, it's on a low latitude. So you get dry winters and some wet summers. I think dry winters are very apparent this year. I think we went on for 2 months without a single drop of rain, and we only had rain last week. So with this dramatic change in seasons, we do get and with the amount of natural landscape that we have, we do get some very diverse species. So if you look at this chart set up by the Agriculture and Fisheries Department, you have around 124 dragonflies, more than 540 species of birds, 86 reptiles, and 24 amphibians. Now, I think there's an updated list now. This is just a previous chart, but still, it's very different from the usual image that people think of Hong Kong as. So very different, and there's actually lots to find around here. And also, since it's Chinese New Year, I think this is the bellflower. It's starting to blossom, and I think many people are going out to find them. But please do not destroy a landscape, because I have seen people actually, there have been photos of some plantation being destroyed, including these flowers. So if you want to go out and see them, you can go and appreciate them, but please don't damage the landscape. So now we move it. So we just talked about Hong Kong's biodiversity in general, and now we're moving on. We're narrowing the scope again to just look at spiders in Hong Kong. Now, spiders in Hong Kong are not that well studied, unfortunately. They're very interesting animals, but there's insufficient study. There are people who are looking into them, such as Mr. Dixon Wong, and and Colin, who is a who's another hobbyist, and he's very good with identification of spiders. Uh, but with the data that we currently have, we from this is from iNaturalist, from the book. I've been just counting numbers, and currently in Hong Kong we have around 26 recorded families, and around oh actually, and 356 species. There was supposed to be a poll, but I forgot to put it up here. Okay, let me just launch it first. So, but I kind of showed you the numbers already. Okay, so so again, if you think about Hong Kong as this very small city, there's actually lots and lots of spiders around here. And this chart right here is from an American photographer called Thomas Shahan, shows some of the spider families in the world. So you, for example, you have crab spiders, lynx spiders, wolf spiders, huntsman spiders, and so on and so forth. Now, please note that not all the families exist in Hong Kong. So for example, you don't get velvet spiders here, I believe. So, but for most of the spiders on here, you can find them in Hong Kong. Now I'm going to launch the poll now, and then you can, so just a heads up, I'm going to explain the poll a bit here. I was supposed to do the poll before this slide. Now there are 4 questions. The 3, you can skip the first one because I've already showed you the numbers. But for the last 3 questions, please don't close the poll. We're going to use that for later slides. So I'm going to launch the poll. Oh, I'm going to launch the poll later. Whoops. Oh, hold up. Sorry. Shouldn't have started the poll. Okay, so even spiders, I think you look at spiders, they're very small creatures, but even so, they do have a big impact on Hong Kong's wildlife, this wildlife research and ecology. This, I would say, is the biggest news that spiders in Hong Kong have made in the last decade. This was in 2018. A new species of jumping spider has been discovered in Hong Kong. It's called Eurobolus crawley. I'll show you a picture later, and it is discovered by a local biologist, Stefan. And the samples have been sent to the university, and through some analysis and just research, they have ID'd it as a new species. So very exciting news for spiders in Hong Kong. And just a little bit of fun facts: the name Eurobolus crawley, the species name crawley, is actually a tribute, as the news states, a tribute to the author of The Very Hungry Caterpillar, Eric Carle. And I think that year was his 80th or 90th anniversary. So a very fitting tribute and a very unique spider, which I'll talk about later. Now we move on to a little bit of taxonomy. Now I talked about families and species beforehand, and here we move on to a little bit of taxonomy, a little bit of technical stuff. So spiders, they're in the phylum Arthropoda. So basically, they're classified as arthropods, which means an animal with segmented bodies. And as you can see, they further diverge from this phylum. So this is the main group, Arachnida. I think that's how you pronounce it. And then you move on to a smaller class, which is here. So this is where all the spiders concentrated. And as you can see, they're very related to scorpions and pseudoscorpions as well. Now, some of you may think there is a common misbelief that spiders are insects, but if you just look at this chart right here, they separate from the phylum here. So they're actually 2 different groups of animals. And just a little bit of a brief summary of taxonomy. So you have kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Oh, I think that was order. Sorry, my bad. This is order. Sorry, my bad. So I won't go into detail with this because it's not the main focus of today's presentation. But I know there are some kids here, and if you're venturing onto high school, this is something that you're going to learn about. So let's talk about spiders. Now, this, I would say, is the main image that spiders are being viewed as, this grotesque, disgusting, and horrifying animal that is usually portrayed in Gothic stories, in movies, in films, and is generally feared by the public. This fear is called arachnophobia. It's a very common fear across the globe. And research may have suggested that because our ancestors, they view spiders as dangerous animals, so they develop a proper fear, and that passed on through many, many generations into the phobia we have today. Now, what I hope to do today is not only to show you some of the species of spiders that exist in Hong Kong, but also to tell you about some interesting behaviors that spiders have, and some of the benefits, yes, benefits of spiders, and hopefully uh, make you fear less of spiders. It's impossible to make you love them in 1 hour, but hopefully you'll be scared of them less. So a little introduction to spiders as well. This is I will talk about the physiological structure of spiders. Now, this spider is not found in Hong Kong in the wild. This is my pet jumping spider, Earl. I'll use it as a demonstration. So spiders are divided into two parts. They are animals with segmented bodies, and they're divided into two parts. So you have the cephalothorax, which has the head, the eyes, the pedipalps, and the chelicera, and the fangs. And then you have the abdomen here, which where the other organs are stored. And at the tip of the abdomen here, there are two structures. I don't know if you can see clearly, but there's a tip right here, over here. That is what we call the spinnerets. Now, these spinnerets are something very unique to spiders, and they produce a very unique type of material. And if you move on to the front-facing side of the spider, you have all these sensitive hairs that help them detect changes in the environment, for example, changes in air pressure, humidity, or detect movement. You have the eyes here. For example, Earl is a jumping spider. She's a diurnal predator. So you have very large eyes to detect, so very sensitive to daylight to help it find prey during the day. And you have the chelicera here, which holds the fangs. You can't really see the fangs in this picture. And you have the pedipalps, which are not only sensory organs of spiders, but also reproductive organs. Now, if you want to know what the fangs of a spider look like, it's like this. This is a very small spider. These fangs are very small. So don't quite worry of a spider biting through your skin and injecting its venom, because most of it can't really. But when they can, for some species, the venom is quite potent. So uh, again, so just be a little bit careful with spiders. Don't be scared of them too much, but be careful. Now, like I said before, some people have misconceptions between insects and spiders. So here let's do a general comparison. So insects like this blue-banded bee, they have 6 legs. They have antenna for detection, uh, and the body is divided into 3 segments. So you've got the head here with the eyes, the thorax here, and the abdomen here. And some of the insects have wings and can fly, such as this bee. Now for spiders, quite different. They have 8 legs, such as this huntsman spider. The body, like I said before, it's divided into 2 segments. So you have the cephalothorax and the abdomen, and they have no wings. Now, even though I'm a spider enthusiast, the thought of a spider growing wings and flying around to me might be a bit too horrifying for me. Now, Benita asked before the presentation, she asked me, what would be the best time to see spiders? Now, from personal experience, I would say during summer and autumn. These 2 seasons are the best time to see spiders. I think in 2020, I went out with a friend one time in October, and we counted around 32 spiders on one single trails. But this is just one family of spiders. Of course, there are other spiders on the trail, but we're just counting this one family of spiders, and we counted 32 species. That's actually a very big number. And the temperature that there was quite good. It was quite hot, a little bit humid, perfect conditions to see spiders from my experience. So spring is starting to kick in. So if you want to go out and see spiders, now would be the best time. And you want to go to the peak time, it will be somewhere between summer and autumn. Now you know the when, now you got to know the where. Now, where will be the best places to see spiders? In Hong Kong, spiders are very versatile animals, so they can live in a variety of habitats. So you've got the usual forests and shrublands, even farmlands, you would see some spiders, for example, orb weavers, even streams. Now, you might not think spiders is something aquatic, but there are some spiders that live above streams, and there are even spiders that actually dive into water. I'll introduce them later. And of course, and if you move on to some man-made structures, you've got handrails along country paths. I think handrails are a very common feature in our country parks, and you would find a lot of spiders on there. Uh, and even in household areas. I mean, I think it was about a few weeks ago that I found a spider just right underneath my light switch, and she was happily living there. So even at home, you can find spiders. So it's just a matter of looking. So we talked about when to see spiders, and we talked about where to find spiders. And now let's move on to the big portion of today's presentation: is what spiders can you find in Hong Kong? So I'll introduce you some common species and some interesting species. So it's a mix of the two. And hopefully with this portion of the presentation, you'll be able to know a bit more about some of the species that exist in Hong Kong. So let's move on. Let's start with the biggest spider in Hong Kong, the golden orb weaver. Now, this is a very common species of spider in Hong Kong. It's an orb weaver, and the name comes from the silk. Now, actually, the webs that they produce, actually, when the sunlight hits them at a certain angle, they actually have this golden color. So that's how the genus gets the name golden orb weaver. Like I said, they're very big spiders. Some of them grow larger than my hand right here. Um, and they can usually be found during the summer. You can find them in any country park. They're that common. Now, this is Nephelopilpes. This is a Hong Kong species, not endemic, but it's the only species of Nephila that can be found in Hong Kong. This is a different species. This is in Malaysia, I think, taken by another photographer called Chian Lee. And this shows another Nephila spider, but this spider right here is very interesting. Now you may think, is this another species that just found its way onto the Nephila's web? Well, not exactly. No, this is actually the male of the Nephila species. Now, as you can see, the size difference is very big. The males is about like 10 times smaller than the females. And usually, if you find one big female uh, golden orb weaver, you would find multiple males on the web. Now, this I would say maybe it's helpful for mating. It's easier for them to mate. But if you find females, you'll find males. And on these golden orb weaver webs, you actually find another species of spider called the dewdrop spider. Now, this is actually a thief. Now, what that means is that they will actually steal prey from the golden orb weavers. So there have been documented cases where the dewdrop spider will actually snip lines on the web and to separate the prey from the main section of the web, and they would just prey on it without the owner of the web ever even noticing. And how they can get past that is the appearance. Now, as you can see, the color is very similar to the male golden orb weavers. It's just that the abdomen shape is a little bit different. It's kind of like that of a dewdrop. So, uh, so on the golden orb weaver web, you can actually find two species of spiders. So the Nephila and the Argyrodes. Another type of orb weaver is this very cool looking and possibly one of my favorite spiders, the spiny orb weaver. Now, this is the only species that can be found of its genus. Gastrocantha is a very big genus, but only this species can be found in Hong Kong. And how it gets its name is you can see from the abdomen here, very big spikes. But the spider is just that big, but you've got these few spikes protruding from the abdomen. And don't be fooled. I've touched these spikes. They're actually hard. They won't make you bleed, but they're rock hard. Oops. Another species of orb weaver that is common in Hong Kong is this kidney garden spider. Very common. You can sometimes see them hanging in their webs, or they hide under leaves. And you've got a very interesting look for this kidney garden spider. The abdomen pattern kind of looks like a face. You've got kind of the eyes here, the eyebrows, and you've got a bit of a mustache here. So actually, it has been nicknamed the Mr. Pringles spider from the Mr. Pringles from the potato chip brand. So a very, very unique orb weaver, but one that can be commonly found in Hong Kong. Another common orb weaver in Hong Kong, it's a bit of a small spider, is this jewelry spider or mirror spider. Now, they can usually be found on leaves, so they have these silk sheets, and they will rest on these silk sheets on leaves. And I would say for me anyway, that even though for their small size, they're quite easy to find because the abdomen is very, very reflexive. I think there have been reports saying that they can actually move these reflective plates independently. Uh, so they're very reflective spiders. They shine really brightly at night. And that's how they earn their name, jewelry spider. But they're very, very small. Now, this is a bit more rare species of orb weaver, uh, and one that I still haven't seen yet. It is the dead leaf spider. Now, how it gets its name, as you can see, it's shaped like a piece of dead leaf. It's like this part is kind of like that of a leaf. So they usually stay motionless in their webs, and that will help them avoid predators and also deceive prey. So prey won't think that this is a very dangerous web. The spider isn't home, but in fact, it's sitting right here. But if you want to go out and see this, maybe a bit difficult because they are a bit uncommon and a bit rare in Hong Kong. So I think we finished with the orb weavers, and now we move on to some ground-dwelling spiders that don't actually build these big webs. Now, this is a garden tarantula. Yes, there are tarantulas in Hong Kong, but don't worry, they're not as big as dinner plates like those in the Amazon. They're quite small. I think you can fit them in the palm of your hand. They can usually be found under rocks. Now, there have been some discussion on Facebook. Somebody stated that maybe this was Flagellus xinping. This was the spider listed previously. Now, the species does exist in Hong Kong, but I think in 2018, there's a new species of garden tarantula discovered called Flagellus bogadecki. I think that's the correct name. Now, if you're going for the identification game, it's quite impossible to identify the spider on a species level based on a habitus shot like this. So if you just see them out on the field, it's quite difficult to say which one is Xinping and which one is Bogadeki. So if you want to go with the identification, I would say it will be best to stick with a genus for now. Another spider that lives on the ground is this funnel web spider. Now, as you can see, the spinnerets actually are very, very long. They're not as long as the spider, but they're quite long here. And an interesting thing, if you go to the countryside and you see these like little silk structures with kind of like a tunnel going into the mountain, they're usually made by funnel webs. So the structures are quite common, but the spiders, they're quite secretive. They usually like to hide inside the funnel, so you won't actually see them come out. I only seen a few come out during the night, but not really during the day. Now, remember I talked about spiders can be found in streams? Now, this is a very interesting spider called the fishing spider. And as you can see, it's actually floating on water. The hairs actually help keep it afloat. Now, not only can it float on water, but can actually dive into water. This spider was actually found submerged in water, clinging onto the rock. And as you can see, the silvery appearance are actually the air bubbles kind of being trapped between the sensitive hairs. So the spider doesn't get drowned. And like the name suggests, sometimes do hunt fish or some other aquatic insects or even tadpoles as well. This is a bit more terrestrial spider. You won't really see them floating on water. This is a lynx spider. And I'm sure all of you know what a lynx is. If you don't know what a lynx is, it's basically another predatory cat, a big cat that usually can be found in mountain areas. And the interesting predatory behavior of the spider is that it ambushes its prey and then it jumps to surprise its prey, and these spines on the legs actually help it to secure its prey and don't let it escape. But this one, it's got a damaged chelicera, so a bit unfortunate. But again, this genus is very, very common in Hong Kong. It can usually be found in forests or even grasslands. Now, this spider the only place you can see this spider are on tree trunks. You don't really see this spider anywhere else in any other landscape. So this is a two-tailed spider, Hasilia. There are a few species in Hong Kong, but again, for the identification, it's a bit, for me anyway, it's a bit difficult to identify to a species level based on a shot like this. And as you can see, how it gets its name is from these very, very long spinnerets. I think they're about the length of the body right here. And they don't exactly construct big webs like orb weavers, but you can usually find some of their silk sheets across tree trunks. And the legs are very, very long as well. This is a brown huntsman spider. I would say this is one of the more common species of spider in Hong Kong. And if you can read the Chinese, how you would distinguish it is with this white band underneath the eyes. That's how they usually get their name. And some of them can actually grow quite big. I think I've seen some about the palm of my hand. They're that big. And an interesting thing about huntsman spiders is that they can move in 360-degree direction, and they can generate incredible bursts of speed. Why? Because of some hydraulic pumping through the legs. So the fluid will pump through the legs like a hydraulic pump, and that will propel the spider in all directions, in whatever direction it chooses, at incredible speed. So they can be very, very fast. Now, the brown huntsman spider is a bit bigger. Now, we move on to another huntsman spider, but it's a bit smaller. This is the Jade huntsman spider, a wish list of mine that I've been searching for 5 years. Finally found it last winter. And as you can see, very, very stunning spider, and the only huntsman spider in Hong Kong that has this extraordinary green color. And they can usually be found resting on leaves, or they can be just on the tree, walking amongst the leaves, or just resting beneath the leaves. So a very beautiful spider, and definitely one of my favorites. Now we move on to this group of spiders is arguably my favorite group of spiders. This is one of my favorite species, but we're moving on to a group that I've been looking into for about 6 months now, which is jumping spiders. Jumping spiders are the largest family of spiders in the world. They contain the most species. And in Hong Kong, there are quite a number of species around here, and they can usually be found throughout the year. But if you want to find the most numbers, like I said before, during summer, autumn, you'll find lots of them. And I would like to introduce to you some very unique jumping spiders in Hong Kong. Here is the orange striped jumping spider. Now, why do I put it here? It doesn't really have this striking feature, but this spider is actually is in a monotypic genus. So what that means is that there's only one genus in the world, and the single genus only contains one species. So only the species, and it can only be found in China. So if you go to the right place during the summer, you may be able to see one, and they're quite unique spiders. This is a more, I would say, more famous spider in Hong Kong, Erua pedunculata, and it's regarded one of the most beautiful jumping spiders in Hong Kong due to its purple. You can see a little bit of purple here, purple and shiny golden appearance. So it's a very, very beautiful spider. And another beautiful spider, another more colorful spider, is this elegant jumping spider, or Chrysilla acerosa. This is a female, I believe, with the males tend to get a bit more dark. But again, another beautiful spider. And actually, there are endemic species of jumping spiders. There are other endemic spider species in Hong Kong. I think there's an ant mimicking sac spider that's endemic to Hong Kong. But since I've been mainly looking at jumping spiders for most of the time, these are the few that I've read up and I've encountered before. So you have Harbor System Hong Kongese, Orientatus Hong Kong, which is I would say is a data deficient jumping spider. There's really not enough data on this species. And the species that I talked about at the very start of the presentation, the one that was recently discovered and named, is this caterpillar mimicking jumping spider. Why is it caterpillar mimicking? Because of its elongated abdomen. You can't really see from the photo here, but it has an elongated abdomen and all these erected hairs that help it look like the the caterpillar of a moth. So these three are found in Hong Kong and can be only found in Hong Kong. So I introduced you 6 species of jumping spiders, but I would say none are more unique than this. And this is a very, very different looking jumping spider from the ones I showed you before. It is called a lobster jumping spider, or copper crosser. And what sets it apart from all of the jumping spiders in Hong Kong are these very long hooked arms and very slender abdomen. It is not quite known whether it is mimicry or just, I don't think it has a mimicry purpose for this appearance, but it's a very unique jumping spider with these very hooked arms, and they can usually be found hiding under leaves or sometimes even walking on handrails. Um, I found quite a few individuals this winter. I have a couple of theories towards some of my findings, but I will not share it here because okay, I'll share. I'll share. Now during the winter, when I found these spiders, I actually found them in clusters. So in one single tree, you actually get a few of these spiders hanging out with each other. Now, I talked to some of my peers, and I came up with a thought of whether it is brood care because I did see quite a number of females in the same tree, and you probably have one or two males. So I don't exactly know if it's brood care or not, but to see that many jumping spiders clustered in a single place with no fighting is indeed a very unique thing to find for me, and a very interesting behavior of jumping spiders that I've encountered recently. So that would be the major species that I want to introduce to you today. But of course, when I talk about spider behavior later on, I'll also introduce you some other species that exhibit some unique behavior. Now, before we go into what spiders, some of the interesting, for example, predatory or mimicry behavior of spiders, we have to start with the very thing that makes spiders special, which is silk. Now, silk exists as a fluid inside of spiders, and then when they are ejected from the body, they are spun by the spinnerets, which are the two structures at the tip of the abdomen that I showed you with Earl's example, and they are spun out as silk. Now, an interesting thing about silk, if you look at this video, it is actually electrostatic. So as you see the insects actually hitting the web, you will see the silk actually moving towards, if you see right here, or replay the clip, actually moves towards the prey. Now it's only a few millimeter distance, but it is this small distance and this electrostatic nature of silk, a spider silk, that helps spider firmly secure its prey. So even as something as fast moving as a fly or mosquito, they probably won't get away from the web of a spider. Now, silk, a spider uses silk in a variety of ways, but these are the major ways that spiders use silk for. They use it for, number one, predation. So for example, the orb weavers that build these large orb webs and just wait for prey to crash into it and so help secure its meal. They can also use it for shelter. So for example, this Jade huntsman spider, like I introduced to you before, they usually rest under leaves, and they will build this silk sheet cover to protect themselves. Of course, they have some little holes where they can exit through. They can use it for reproductive purposes. For example, this huntsman spider that is actually made in a silk egg sac. So beneath the egg sac are the hundreds and thousands of eggs. And of course, this is to protect the eggs and not let it become predated on. Sorry. And another purpose of silk is locomotion. So for example, this jumping spider that actually uses silk quite like a bungee jump. So you have a thread of silk attached to one position, and then it jumps from there. And if it misses its landing spot, it will dangle around, and it can still trace back to the original spot that it jumped from using that single silk that it put. Now we talked about predation. So we talked about predation. Now we're going to talk about two very unique predation techniques of spiders involving silk. Now, first of all, this is a net casting spider. Now, a very weird looking spider, very elongated abdomen, very long legs, and you can see very big front pair of eyes. Now, what does it use silk for? It's in the name. So this species is in Hong Kong, but this species was taken in Madagascar. It's from the same family, but a different species. Now, as you can see here, the silk it spins actually creates this sort of net. So what it does is, like a fisherman catching fish, they would wait for prey, and then when prey passes underneath the spider, it will like grab it like that. So as a fisherman would catch silk using a big fishing net, and no other spider in the world is known to use this technique. Only net casting spiders. Another unique usage of silk is by this very small spider called the spitting spider, and as the name suggests, they will actually spit out silk. And I believe the silk is venomous. Please correct me if I'm wrong. The silk is venomous. They would spit out the silk to immobilize their prey, and they prey on and they sometimes prey on other spiders as well. Speaking of prey, so what do spiders usually eat, regardless of the method of using of silk usage? So they usually prey on other insects. So for example, this huntsman spider eating a caterpillar, or this orb weaver eating, I would say it's a beetle. So so spiders either build a web and wait for prey to come to it, or they actively look for prey. But sometimes, if you can't really find insects, they'll actually eat other spiders. For example, this jumping spider eating another jumping spider. Now, this behavior is what we call araneophagy. So it's a Latin word, basically means spider eating spider. So spiders sometimes do prey on other spiders, but generally insects, other insects. But there have been documented cases in Hong Kong where spider would prey on geckos, and some mates, and even in extreme cases in other countries, birds. So spiders are very versatile animals. They have a very wide range of their diet. So that's how they are one of the most successful animals on the planet. So in order to capture their prey, spiders involve some pretty clever disguises. Now, and that's what we call camouflage, blending into your environment. So first of all, you have this lichen huntsman spider, a very well camouflaged spider, actually, as you can see, camouflaged very well onto this tree trunk. And as you can, there's bits of tufts of hair erecting from the body, and the spider is generally flat, so it blends in really well with the tree trunk. Another spider is this trash line orb weaver. So what actually does, it actually gathers debris. So for example, maybe fallen leaves, and manipulates them and lines them up with the center of the web, and they will lie within the line of debris. So that not only deceives predators, but also deceives prey. Now, sometimes spiders don't mimic their environment. They actually mimic other animals. Now, one of the most common mimicry in spiders is actually the mimicry of ants. Now, there are a few different types, but even in ant mimicry, there are a few different types. So, uh, first of all, this is an ant mimicking crab spider. So, as you can see, you've got two legs here that actually kind of mimic the antenna, and you've got the six legs walking around to mimic the remaining six legs of the insect. Now, what does it usually mimic? It mimics yellow weaver ants, but for what purpose? For predation. And this is what we call aggressive mimicry. So you're mimicking an animal in order to predate on it. So I think the main diet consists of yellow weaver ants, such as in this picture, and they will actually blend into a weaver ant colony and actually pluck an ant from the colony unnoticed. This spider did just that, from what I observed. So as you can see, very unique looking abdomens, kind of similar to the ants, and they would eat ants on the run. Now, some spiders like this one, they act like spiders in order to eat. They act like ants in order to eat ants. But some spiders, like this ant mimicking jumping spider, they act like ants in order to get away from predators, because many predators tend not to mess with ants. So as you can see here, this ant mimicking jumping spider, Synageldes, again, not you can't really see here, but it's got a very elongated abdomen and these very long front legs that once again mimic the antenna. The remaining six mimics the legs of the ant. Now, these legs, as you can see, they're kind of folded. Now, how long can these legs actually get? From this photo, they're about the same length of the body. So they are that well engineered in order to look like an ant. Now, besides from ants, spiders also mimic other kinds of insects. So example, this ladybird spider, since ladybirds, when they get defensive, they do produce a foul chemical. So this genus actually has learned to mimic that of ladybirds. It is an orb weaver. But besides from mimicking insects, they will actually mimic other things as well. So this bird dropping spider has mimicked something quite distasteful, which is bird poo, and it is mainly for defensive purposes, mainly to just deceive predators and to not get eaten. Now we move on to a very interesting slide, and a spider that I really enjoy observing, and one of my favorite spiders in the world. Now, when you think of spiders, they're arthropods, they're invertebrates, they're very simple creatures. So what does it have to do with intelligence? Well, I will introduce you to this spider which is the Portia jumping spider. This is it is regarded as the most intelligent spider in the world. So what it actually does, it actually devises tactics and strategies in order to eat other spiders. So they would survey the environment and kind of map out the environment and kind of think, okay, where should I attack the spider? And also, as you can see, it's very brown color and mimics debris. What it also does is actually it will actually pluck the lines on a web to mimic debris actually falling into the web. And what the owner of the web does, it gets curious, it goes and checks it out, and boom, it gets eaten. So it's a very, very clever spider. It's very small, but it's got a really big brain. Uh, so previously we talked about spiders looking like other things, but even within the same species, they can look very different. Now, this is where we're going to do the little poll. Sorry, give me a sec. Let me just get the poll out. Whoops. Sorry, just give me a second. Get the poll out. Now, we're going to do a little bit. Okay, we're going to do a little game of sexual dimorphism. So here we have two spiders from the same species called a dancing house jumper. Now, which one do you think is the male of the species? So this would be the left, and this would be the right. So which one do you guys think is the male a dancing house jumping spider? So I'll give you some time to fill out the poll. Now, when you finish, don't actually close yet because this is a continuous poll. So do not close the poll because we're going to have a few more guessing rounds later. But right now you can fill it out. But which one you can kind of guess which one is the male. So wait, sorry, I just want to ask, is the poll out?
Yes,
I launched the poll.
Marco, I launched the poll. So
Okay.
everybody, if you can answer question number 2, yeah. Oh, okay. It seems, it seems there's some problem with the poll. Let me relaunch it.
Okay. Is it okay now?
Can everybody see the poll now? Question number 2. Question number 2. So we are talking about Anderson's house jumper. So either the picture on the left or on the right, which one is the male one? So I hope everybody is able to see the poll. If not, maybe you can just type the answer in the chat room. I'm sorry. Okay, I see some people answering it, so it's working. Sorry, we're trying this for the first time, so please bear with us.
Yeah, because this is my first time using this poll function on Zoom. So if you have any difficulties, please, I sincerely apologize because this is my first time using Zoom poll. My apologies.
Okay, Marco, I guess people are guessing the left one. Can you show us the answer?
So I'll remind you again, this is the left, and this is the right. I'll give you one more chance. This is the left and this is the right. Left, right.
So we have one person guessing the right and then 2 person guessing the left.
So should I reveal? I think we have only 15 minutes left. Shall I do a
Yeah, just go ahead.
Okay. So actually, this is the male of this. This is actually the male of the species. Now, in Hasarius adansini, the sexual dimorphism, which is the difference in appearance between the male and the female, is very apparent. The males are usually very dark in color, while the females are usually a bit more brown and a bit more drab. So let's move on to a bit more difficult guess. Now, this is another type of jumping spider called the spindle-legged jumping spider. So from the photos, again, left and right, which one is the male?
So
this one's a bit tricky.
I noticed there's 43 of us in the room, and I think some of us haven't answered. So if you can, please join us in the poll. I think it's quite fun. So now we are in the question number 3 on the spindle leg jumping spider. So now it's question number 3. Which one is the male, left or right?
Okay, I can see some. Okay, left, say left, left,
Okay.
So Olivia
left,
said left. Okay,
left.
people guess left.
Okay, and for those who guessed left, you are correct. This is the left. This is the male of the species. Now, if you just look at the dorsal and the
所以用佢
thorax,
毛棚都係一樣咁樣。
pardon?
Sorry, I think there's a background noise here. Let me
Ah.
mute.
Okay.
佢之前強
Sorry, I mute you, Marco. You
Oh, okay,
need to
okay.
mute, yeah.
So for some species, like the spindle-like jumping spider, if you just look at the abatis shot, it is a bit difficult to identify, but usually a more common way for scientists to identify jumping spiders is by the pedipalps. So as you can see, this one here is a bit more bulbous pedipalps, and also if you want to look at some little details, you actually can see there's an orangish stripe on the pedipalp, which are unique to male spiders, but females, not really. But another way to identify the gender of spiders is by the epigene, if I remember correctly, which is a reproductive organ for females, but that would require some dissection, so it's quite hard to see it in the field. So now we move on to the very last guessing. This is, I believe, Sasha's favorite jumping spider. This is the metallic jumping spider. And let's go again. Left, right. This time, guess the female.
So why is it called a metallic one, Marco?
Because the colors actually are very reflective. And if you look at the abdomen, it had a very, very reflective color. Okay, so more of you are saying right, right. And for those of you who guessed right, you are correct. This is the female metallic jumping spider. The females, if you look at another key difference, well, first the pedipalps, as you can see, the males are a bit more bulbous. But if you look at another feature that is unique to Scilla semiglaucus, is actually this very feathery segment on the leg of males. Now, this could be used for mating purposes. So what spiders do? So, for example, I'll first point out. For example, so when a male encounters a female, they actually do this little dance to attract the female's attention. And if the female likes to dance, they would mate with the spider. And if they don't, they would eat it. So it's a flip of a coin, 50-50 chance of whether the male spider will successfully mate with the female. And if you want to look at the more classic mating dance of spiders, you can search peacock jumping spider dance. On YouTube, you would find some very extraordinary footage of a very unique type of jumping spider in Australia, which is the peacock jumping spider. But Scilla semiglaucus exhibits a similar behavior, so I usually nickname it the peacock jumping spider of Hong Kong. Now, after they mate, they will of course produce babies, baby spiders, and here we move on to a life cycle. Now, this is the life cycle of Epirus glorious. I'm sorry for so many jumping spiders, but we usually start with the babies here. So you have lots of babies underneath a web sheet. There will usually be an egg sac, and they will hatch out as babies. And as they grow, they would become subadults. But during the subadult stage of this particular species, they actually look very, very similar. As you can see, very green body, and and you've got these 4 little dots on the abdomen here. So they look very, very similar. But actually, if you look at the shape here, this actually is the male. And as the males mature, they become more dark in color. They would develop this red top of hair on top of the eyes, and you have this very yellowish abdomen. And for the females, well, they kind of stay the same. Maybe I think the abdomen pattern does change slightly, but usually they stay around the same. And if they successfully mate, they will create an egg sac. The female will guard the egg sac and then later hatch into spiderlings. Now, please note that this is just a theorized life cycle of the species. What I mean by theorized is that it is not 100% confirmed. These are I've only discussed with a few people, including Colin, and this is kind of what we come up with, but nothing is 100% confirmed, but this is just for a little reference. So spiders exhibit some very interesting behaviors. They view silk in a variety of ways, and they have some very unique appearances. So besides from the beautiful looks, and then the incredible brains, what are spiders actually beneficial for? Well, actually, believe it or not, spiders are actually very healthy towards our environment. They help keep our ecosystem healthy. So what this means, because spiders predate on other invertebrates, for example, ants. So they would help keep the population of lower trophic levels. So animals on the lower part of the food chain, they will keep in check, and so they don't overpopulate and destroy vegetation. And on the other hand, they are actually prey items for other types of animals that are high up in the food chain. So, for example, other spiders, larger insects, lizards, snakes, frogs, or even birds. They provide a good food source for them as well. So, when you have a healthy population of spiders, that means most of everything else is kept in check. But while they are beneficial, there are threats towards spiders. I'll talk about a few of them right here. Natural threats. Not only I'm not going to talk about natural disasters because that's kind of obvious, but from an animal level, what poses a threat towards a spider? Like I said before, other invertebrates, for example, this ant preying on the spider. So here you can see spiders as an actual prey item. Now in this case, as you may think that the wasp is actually eating the spider, but it's not exactly right. This is actually what we call a spider wasp. It is so what they would do, they would actually paralyze the spider and inject eggs into the spider, and it would take the spider back into its burrow. And what happens is the larva of the wasp will actually feed on the spider as it grows, and then they will mature as wasps. So paralyzed spiders act as a very good food source for the larva that can't move around very efficiently, that are vulnerable towards other predators, staying in their burrow, preying, just eating the spider is a very good tactic from the mother and a very safe option for the larva as well. Now, this is a bit of a controversial one in my mind. I would like you all to just guess in the chat box, what is this thing holding the person's hand? You can just type in the chat box. This photo has been circulating on Facebook for a while, but just would like for some of you to kind of guess what this is. So can someone type in the chat box? Yes, they are. Yes, they are spider traps. I think in Hong Kong, if you're local, you will know this term called Mao, which is like a local tradition. So people would actually put spiders together and for battle, and they usually surround this particular species with this particular genus, which is Thyana. Thyana, I think it's Thyana. And so they will usually capture these spiders and take them back to indoors, and then they will actually hold these tournaments and to declare a champion. Now, and jumping spiders have also been caught from the wild and been sold in the pet trade business. But the thing is, some people may argue that, oh, I'm doing this for nostalgia. But I have seen videos where the jumping spiders, because for jumping spider fights, they only capture males because males only get aggressive. The females don't usually get too aggressive. It's only the males that demonstrate this fighting behavior. So I've seen males get extremely damaged and sometimes even killed during the fight. Now, by only capturing males, you're actually decreasing the chance of reproduction. So you have a good number of females, but not enough males to mate with. So that is a very concerning thing. But jumping spider poaching is not properly assessed. There's no professional research on the impacts of jumping spider poaching. So you can argue it's good, you can argue it's bad. I'll leave it up for your interpretation. So uh, one more thing, one more human threat. Let me just go back. One more human threat, of course, is habitat destruction in Hong Kong. The more we exploit land, the more habitat we're taking away from spiders, and that decreases the species level, as some of them have even gone extinct. But luckily, some species of spider have been rediscovered uh, throughout the past few years, and many new species of spiders have been discovered. So that is from the scientific standpoint. By finding new species, reporting them in the news, we are raising the awareness of other people to help understand spiders better. And what other ways can you, as a citizen, help raise the awareness for yourself and for other people? Well, The most important thing that I always stress, not only in this talk, I think I talked about the same thing in the insect and spiders talk, is learning and sharing are key. So become a citizen scientist. I think Robert Ferguson is here today, and I think Ho Kun Wong, who is the which is a Ho Kun Wong's, which is a an education environmental education organization, is also here today. And just become a citizen scientist, participate in environmental education and conservation. And even though spiders are not really that well studied in Hong Kong, it would be best to go out and just look for them yourself. So here's my good friend Arthur. He is photographing a jumping spider. So just go out and experience it for yourself. When you actually do see a spider, they actually do exhibit some very unique behaviors, like I mentioned before. And just observing them in the field does help you to gain a new perspective. Now, the question is, what do you, so you can go out as many times as you want, it's up to you. But the question is, what do you do after these trips? So you've taken some photos, you told people about you've seen some spiders. So what do you do after that? Well, sharing is key. Now, when I say sharing, I don't mean sharing the jumping spiders, passing it around, and maybe like putting them in fights. Not that. What I mean sharing is sharing your photos and sharing your experience. So number one option, or one of the options, is sharing through social media, through Instagram or Facebook. And if you're from Hong Kong, there is this Bug City Hong Kong 2 group that not only do people share spiders around there, but they also do share other insects. They will go on there to share their findings and even ask for identification. So it's a very friendly group with some very talented people, not me, very talented people up there that can really help you with your identification. If you want to help out on a scientific level, on a professional level, you can also use this app, iNaturalist. I think Robert Ferguson recently held a Bow Blitz, and I think that also involved this application as well. So what this application does is it helps you record your species and put it on there as your observations, and then you can get professionals, professional scientists, ecologists, zoologists, taxonomists to help you identify your observations. Here in Hong Kong, we have a particular project for spiders called Hong Kong Spiders, and it is a regularly updated project, so you can see many different types of spiders, not only jumping spiders, huntsmen, orb weavers, all types of spiders from Hong Kong being posted on this project. Not only can you get a proper identification for your observations, but also you can actually help out professional scientists, because I understand some of them actually do help gather data, scientific research data from this particular app. So you're not only helping with self-identification, but also helping scientists with the conservation and research work as well. Now, speaking of iNaturalist, there's this upcoming activity called City Nature Challenge. I think most of you have heard of it. This 2021 this year, and so for those of you who don't know what the City Nature Challenge is, it's basically this competition across the globe where participating countries will get citizens to go out into the field and not only take pictures of spiders, but any type of animal or plant. And they will put them on iNaturalist, and they will do some identification, kind of like a judging period. And in the end, the results will come back to see which country has the most participants, most species, most number of observations, and most amount of species properly identified. So for this year, if you want to participate, the photo taking period, which is the period where you will go out and take pictures of spiders, not just spiders, take pictures of animals and plants, would be the last week of April, so 30th of April to the 3rd of May. And after this period would be the identification period, which means identification of species. So it is from the 4th of May and to the 9th of May. So after the period, I think they will tally up the numbers, and in probably maybe one or 2 months, they will announce the results of the competition. So it's a very competitive scientific activity. So if you're interested in this, feel free to join. I highly encourage you to join, and because again, it involves a naturalist, and you're also helping scientists from across the globe that can't really travel to other places for research due to the pandemic. It was a very, very fun and very, very helpful activity. So in conclusion, spiders, I would say, are very misunderstood animals. They're not this disgusting monster that portrayed in movies or in the media. They're actually very beautiful animals that do exhibit some very unique behavior. And all it takes right now is a bit of searching under the leaves, on handbills, and who knows, you may even find something special. And since this is the pandemic era, if you really have nothing to do at home, go out to country parks, take a little walk, not only to exercise but also to observe different types of animals. In this presentation I will stress spiders, but in general just observe any animal, any plant. Use our naturalists to document your findings and use this period of time at home to learn more about wildlife, not only across the globe, but more importantly in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong wildlife is not really well appreciated by the general public. And I think it deserves more attention and more understanding and, and better conservation so that they would prosper and live peacefully. So that would be the end of my presentation. But before I go, I would like to thank Benita and Encompass Hong Kong for inviting me again to do a talk. So Encompass HK is a social enterprise that aims at achieving sustainable goals. So the sustainable goals set out by the United Nations, I believe, is the one that they're referencing for. And during this pandemic era, some of the activities that they're focusing on is eco tours, so life on land and life underwater. So they're mainly focusing on those. And so so when the social restrictions are lifted, they would actually they will actually host these eco tours. I've been on a few of them as a participant and as a guide. So if you're interested in seeing different parts of different kinds of wildlife in Hong Kong during different times in different habitats, if the eco tours do come back, I highly encourage you to come join. If you want to meet me, come join. It's a very fun experience, and hopefully, if you do come join, you will learn lots. So if you want to support Encompass and fund the activities, there are these three pathways where you can help Encompass. So PayPal, bank transfer, or FPS. The presentation will be sent to you. So if you want to help out Encompass, you can check out these details once the presentation is sent to you. And I would like to once again thank Benita for inviting me to do this talk. It is an honor and a privilege to be sharing with you guys. And also I would like to thank Arthur, Colin, Chian, and Thomas for their photos. Colin, I will say, is a very, very good spider expert, even better than me, I would say. His accuracy is very, very good, and his understanding on spiders is phenomenal. So here is his iNaturalist. I think he'll be glad to help you with some identifications. So you can follow them here and on Facebook. And also I would like to thank Sasha, Eric, Thomas, I think he's here today as well, Thomas, Ryan, and Sandra, who's currently overseas. Thank you all for joining me throughout my spider excursions and just photographing spiders with me, looking for spiders with me and chatting about spiders, especially during the summer. It has been really fun, and really thank you for joining the ride. So some resources for if you want to learn more about spiders. There's a book, it's right here, called A Guide to Spiders of Hong Kong. It's released a few years ago. So if you want to learn more about local species, this will be the book. But I will say, because spider taxonomy is constantly changing, there are some changes in the ID. So if you want to look at some ID of spiders, well, you can use this book as reference. It's a good book. For example, you can see many good photos of spiders and some identifications of some genuses for them as well, some descriptions for them as well. You could also go to the project I mentioned, Hong Kong Spiders, to look at some other observations from other people. If you want to have a more academic and scientifically professional resource, you could use Peckamia, which is a main source for jumping spiders. Well, I've included a lot of jumping spiders in this presentation, so please forgive me. So these two would be for jumping spiders. And also think there's a World Spider Catalog, which is an online database on all the spiders in the world. If you just search World Spider Database, I think the first option that pops up on Google, you can go on there and search up different genuses, different families, and different species, and there will be some academic literature linked to each species. So these are for learning more about spiders, and I believe that is the end of the actual end. of today's presentation. So once again, thank you all for coming today, and and wish you
Marco,
all
I
a very
think
happy
I
New
think we have some
Year.
time for Q&A, right?
Uh, I think so.
Yeah, I think so. So Alice have an answer. What lens you use to take those macro photos?
Well, should I stop sharing first?
Yes, yes, stop sharing. So
Okay.
we have a question from Alice. She's asking you
What lens?
equipment is.
I use a oh, let me just get my camera real quickly. Give me a second.
So thank you everybody for staying with us. Marco will be back shortly, and so I'm interested in a lot of different SDGs, whether they are
Sorry,
land or
the camera
marine.
was in my
If
room.
you have a topic,
So
oh sorry,
I
Marco, go ahead.
use this Olympus camera with this 60mm macro. I also use a flash and diffusion system to take photos of all those spiders, and just if for taking photos of spiders, for example, jumping spiders, I think Sasha will know what I'm talking about. They're very tricky to photograph, and so it takes time and practice. I'm still not good at it. There are other people that are way better than I am out there, but for me, it's just about going out there constantly and practicing. I have heard that spiders can fly. Now, spiders can't technically fly because they don't have wings, but spiders do ride the wind sometimes. So what I mean by this is that so for young spiders, for spiderlings, they will actually eject silk from their bodies, and as the silk, because it's very light material, it catches wind, and as the spiderlings are very light in weight as well, so they will actually float along with the wind, and that actually helps them disperse to different environments so they won't be too concentrated, and that helps the spiderlings settle down into their new homes. So yes, there are some spiders that you can, I think in the UK you can see them. I don't know if you can see them in Hong Kong, but I think that there's a video from the BBC where you can see spiderling just flying around, drifting along the wind, and just dispersing through different places. So yeah, spiders can't technically fly, but they can drift along with the wind.
Uh, Sorry, I'm just going to finish my thought. I'm Benita. So I'm very interested in different SDG, different topic, whether it's spider, reptile, bird, or whatever. So if you or you know friends who are expert in certain animals or species, please let me know. And we organize this community talk for free, so everybody can, whether you're from Hong Kong or different parts of the world, can learn about animals. So please let me know. You can drop me a message, Facebook, Instagram, whatever.
Do you keep spiders at home to observe them? No, like I said, I have a jumping spider. She is a Phidippus jumping spider. She's Earl. She's that big now. She's about that big now. She's in my room. I'm not gonna get her out because the terrarium's a bit dirty. I haven't cleaned it in a while. But yeah, the reason I bought a jumping spider, because I did have pets before. I did have a pet mantis before, but the reason I wanted to get a jumping spider is not only because my interest in jumping spiders have reignited in late October, in late August, but also I would like to keep one at home to see it has some interesting behaviors that I can't really see in the field. And I will say I have seen some interesting things from Earl that I haven't seen before. So yeah, it has been fun keeping Earl. I don't think she likes me a lot for some reason. But yeah, it has been quite fun. She's pissed at me sometimes. Like I try to get a handshake and she just gets really pissed at me. So, but yeah, it's been fun keeping Earl, and it's been fun observing them. Yeah, I hope that answers your question, Robert.
So Paul has a question. Are there any spider in Hong Kong with a notably painful bite?
Painful bite. I think Nephila pilpes, the golden orb weaver, it does have a bit more of a potent venom. But for other spiders, I am not too sure. I'll maybe double check with Colin, and if we send an email later, and then maybe I will talk. I'll see if I can get some answers. But to my knowledge, I think Nephila pilpes is the one potential. It won't kill you, maybe cause a little bit of a swollen area along the area that you were bit. But otherwise, spiders in Hong Kong, they're not really that dangerous, and actually they're more scared of us than we're scared of them. So they'll actually just run away. For example, jumping spiders, they will just run away when they see people. So not something too much, not something to worry too much about. But if you get bit, I think just treat it well. It won't spread too much. It's not like the black widow. The black widow is a notoriously dangerous spider, but that can only be found in North America and some parts of Europe. The redback spider is in Australia, so not too much to worry about, I would say.
Any more questions? You can. Sorry, I've muted everybody, but you can unmute yourself if you want to raise a question as well. Any question from maybe Shasha or Claudia or?
We do have a jumping
Beans
spider.
have a question. We have jumping spider in the house. Do you have a shot at what type of spider this could be?
You have to show that you'd have to show this. You'd have to show the spider, because on the top of my head, I have two spiders in mind, but I have to see a photo just to be sure. Do you have a photo? It is too small. Okay, then I have two guesses. Either it is a Hadanson's jumping spider, which is the one I introduced in the presentation. That is generally a jumping spider that can be found on households. And another spider, which is the spider underneath my light switch, is. I'll type out the name. I'll see if I can type out the name correctly. I'll private chat to you. So this is a very small orb weaver in Hong Kong, and and usually, wait, let me just find your.
Marco, can you send a message to everybody so everybody have the same?
Okay. Okay. So let me just check back on the name, because I always forget on the scientific name. But there's a very small species of orb weaver that can be found in household areas, and there's usually, you would find many of them living on the corner of my house. So they're very common species. But let me just find back on my iNaturalist, because I tend to forget really quickly. But I did put it up there somewhere. Starts with an O, but I can't really wait. Or maybe send it. If you have any questions, you can wait. I'll give me some time to search. I'll answer your questions along the way, but please just give me some time to search, because I am quite forgetful. Will the male golden orb be eaten by the female after mating? Or is it that tiny? Yes, even after successful mating, the male could be eaten by the female. So the males are very unlucky spiders, I would say. One more. The spider I've seen the most is the funnel web. I've seen one on the footpath. Is there a reason they seem to build webs in such open spaces? Not quite sure. For funnel webs, maybe because the footpath, the material along the footpath, the soil is suitable for them. I'm not too sure, but generally spiders, they build webs on very open space. If you see like orb weavers, they don't tend to hide away their webs. You can just find them out in the open. Just even along the trail, you can find them hanging above the trail. They aren't that secretive animals. Do spiders have a fixed home from where they roam around? Sometimes for orb weavers, they sometimes do move around. So what they do is actually, after one night, they will actually recycle their silk. So they actually eat the web, ingest the silk, and then recycle it for further purposes. Maybe they will move to a different spot if a spot is not favoring them too much. But for other spiders, for example, like huntsman spiders, jumping spiders, they tend to roam around and don't really have a fixed spot where they stay in. Sorry, okay. Golden orb, but yes, the males sometimes will get eaten by the females. So let me just check real quickly.
So while Marco is checking, I just want to show everybody that this is our upcoming talk. So we have different topics on climate justice or donut economics. So it's quite a broad range. So these talks are all free. So if you're interested in any of these topics, please sign up to us. Let your friends know. Yep.
I've just sent
Marco will find it.
the name out. Sorry for taking so long. I'm quite forgetful. Ecobius, the genus is Ecobius. The species hasn't been identified on a species level yet. At least I haven't. But yes, this is the other. This is the other spider that could be your spider. Is it Lena? Lean. It could be. So it's either a Hadanson's jumping spider or a flatfish or weaver. So Ecobius sp. Would house geckos eat small spiders? Yes, geckos are one of the predators that eat spiders, but maybe because some of them are too small, we can't really make them feel full. So maybe they would ignore them, I would say. But I think I can show you a photo from the book that actually does document a spider catching a uh, a uh, a gecko. I don't know if you can see here. So you have a you see I don't know if you see clearly. You actually have a golden orb weaver having a gecko in its web and is actually eating it. So it can sometimes be the other way around. Actually, I don't know if you guys can see the photo here. I haven't seen this situation before, but this is the only time I've seen it in Hong Kong, which is in this book. Oops. Let's see. Is
So Marco.
yes, that is the Olympus lens, at the Olympus 60mm. Yes, I think they have 100mm coming out soon. I think.
So Marco, if I'm going to ask you to do another talk, maybe you need to tell us how to identify the different spiders. So you were talking about jumping spider and golden weaver like that. I know they look very different,
Yeah.
but if you, next time when we go a little bit more in depth, maybe you can tell us how the different family is different and how to tell which one from that one. I think that would be helpful.
Sure. I think I'll have to do a little bit more research because right now I do know some of the identification for some species, but right now I will look at other species soon. I'm not just looking at jumping spiders and just leaving spiders in general, but I will look at other species. But for now, because I'm kind of working on a little project, I'm just looking at jumping spiders in depth for a little while.
Thank you, Marco. Any other questions from the group? You can put it in the chat room or you can raise your hand and let us know. You're welcome to shoot us a message, Instagram, Facebook, whatever that is. And as we said, we'll send you the recording and the slides so you can share it with your friends. I know it's late at the night, and so I think everybody is a little bit tired and ready for bed. So thank you everybody for staying with us tonight. It was a pleasure to have you with us to be in this talk. I personally learned a lot, and thank you, Marco, again. And if we can we all give like a virtual claps for Marco, for Marco's work, for helping us to do this talk.
Thank you for having me to have this talk again, and it has been a pleasure and it's an honor and a privilege as well. And it's been fun prepping for this, and it also motivated me to go and look for particular species as well. So thank you, Benita, and thank you everyone for coming tonight. And once again, I've said it the third time now, but Happy New Year.
Yep, and I'll put it here again. So Marco's Instagram is Debbie Guy. Please follow him, leave comment for him. I'm very impressed with this young man, and I hope we have more young aspiring biologists in Hong Kong. So thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Should I stop recording now? Or?
Yep.
Oh, okay.